Picture this. You're at a family gathering. Your cousin pulls up in a new BMW, fresh off the lot. Lease payments he definitely can't afford, but nobody at the table knows that. Everyone turns. Everyone notices. Someone says, "Nice car." Someone asks what he's paying for it. He waves the question off like the number doesn't matter, and you're sitting there in a 3-year-old Honda that runs perfectly, that you own outright, with $40,000 sitting in index funds that nobody at this table can see. Nobody will compliment your index funds today. Nobody will ask about your net worth with admiration in their voice. There is no moment where you pull up and everyone turns. And for a second, if you're honest, that stings a little. This is the tension nobody talks about when they tell you to build wealth instead of looking wealthy. The math is obvious. The psychology is hard because humans are wired for status signals. We are wired to respond to visible markers of success. And when you choose the invisible path, the one where the money is real but silent, you have to make peace with something most financial advice never prepares you for. Today, I want to talk about what it actually looks like when you choose wealth over looking rich. The decisions it requires, the things you give up, the things you gain that nobody sees coming, and why, despite all of it, the math always wins in the end. My name is Jack. If you're someone who is quietly building while everyone around you is loudly spending, this video is for you. Hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Let's start with what choosing wealth over looking rich actually means in practice. Part 1. The decision nobody claps for. Looking rich has an audience. Wealth does not. That is the first and most important thing to understand about this choice. When you buy a new car, people notice. When you upgrade your apartment, people come over and compliment it. When you wear expensive clothes, people see them. The social feedback loop for visible spending is immediate, consistent, and deeply satisfying to the human brain. Compliments, admiration, status, belonging. When you invest $500 into an index fund, nobody knows. When you drive the paid-off car instead of leasing the new one, nobody congratulates you. When you choose the smaller apartment to keep your savings rate high, nobody throws you a party. The social feedback loop for quiet wealth building is essentially silent. You get nothing from the outside, which means you have to generate everything from the inside. Research from Princeton University studying conspicuous consumption found that visible luxury spending activates the same social reward centers as direct praise and recognition. Your brain gets a genuine neurological hit from being seen with expensive things. It is not vanity exactly. It is biology. Status signaling is hardwired into human social behavior because for most of human history, visible resources meant survival advantages, which means choosing wealth over looking rich is not just a financial decision. It is a decision to override a deeply wired biological instinct. And that is genuinely hard in ways that spreadsheets and financial advisors never acknowledge. Part 2. What you actually give up. Let's be honest about what this choice costs. Because pretending it costs nothing is what makes financial advice feel disconnected from real life. You give up the new car moment, the feeling of driving off the lot, the smell of it, the way people look when you pull up. You drive the reliable used car instead. It gets you everywhere the new car would, but it does not get you the look. You give up the apartment upgrade. When your income increases and everyone around you moves into nicer places, you stay put. Or you move somewhere modest. Your savings rate goes up. Your square footage does not. People come over less. You stop getting invited to certain conversations about neighborhoods and renovation projects. You give up the outfit, the watch, the shoes that signal membership in a certain financial category. You wear things that fit and function. You do not wear things that announce. And in certain social circles, that invisibility has a cost. You give up the instant gratification loop. Every dollar that goes into an investment account instead of a purchase is a dollar that produces no immediate pleasure, no dopamine hit, no social reward, just a number that gets slightly larger in an app you check occasionally. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent years researching actual millionaires for their book, The Millionaire Next Door. What they found consistently surprised people. The majority of high net worth individuals in America do not live in the most expensive neighborhoods, do not drive the most expensive cars, do not wear the most visible brands. They are, as the title suggests, next door, invisible, ordinary looking, extraordinarily wealthy. The people who look rich and the people who are rich are frequently not the same people. And the gap between those two groups is the lease payment, the status purchase, the appearance maintenance budget that one group is paying every month and the other is investing. Part 3. What you actually gain. Here is where it gets interesting, because the gains from choosing wealth over looking rich are real. They are just delayed, and they are almost entirely invisible to everyone except you. You gain options. This is the most underrated benefit of actual wealth versus the appearance of wealth. Options mean you can leave a job that is making you miserable because you have savings that give you a runway. Options mean you can say no to things, commitments, requests, relationships, because you are not financially desperate. Options mean when an opportunity appears, you can move on it because your financial foundation is stable enough to absorb the risk. The person who looks rich but isn't has no options. They are trapped by the payments. Every month they have to earn the same amount or more just to maintain the appearance. Their income is already spoken for by the lease, the rent, the credit card minimum that covers last month's status purchases. They look free. They are not free. You gain compounding. Every dollar not spent on looking rich is a dollar that can compound for decades. Research from Fidelity analyzing account holders who built 7-figure portfolios found the most common shared trait was not high income. It was high savings rate combined with long time horizons. People who consistently saved 20% or more of their income and left it invested. Many of them had ordinary salaries. What they had was the discipline to not perform wealth before they had it. You gain mental clarity. Financial stress is one of the most cognitively depleting forces in a person's life. Research from Princeton, the same institution that studied conspicuous consumption, found that financial worry consumes cognitive bandwidth in measurable ways. People under financial stress perform significantly worse on reasoning and decision-making tests, not because they are less intelligent, because a portion of their mental processing power is always occupied by money anxiety. When your finances are genuinely stable, not performing stability but actually stable, that cognitive load lifts. You think more clearly. You make better decisions. You are more present. You gain time, not immediately, but eventually, because wealth, real wealth, not the appearance of it, is the purchase of time. Every year of consistent investing at a meaningful savings rate is a year subtracted from your mandatory working life. The person building genuine wealth at 30 is buying the option to stop at 50 or 55. The person spending everything on looking wealthy at 30 is guaranteeing they work until 65 or 70 because they will never have the asset base to stop. Part 4. The hardest moments. Let's talk about the specific moments where this choice feels most difficult because they come, and knowing they're coming makes them easier to navigate. The comparison moment. Someone your age, same income, similar background, buys something visible and impressive, and you feel it. Not jealousy exactly, more like a question. Am I doing this right? Am I missing something? Is there a version of this where I can have both? The answer is almost always no. Not at this stage. The both comes later, after the foundation is built. But during the building phase, you have to choose, and the comparison moment is where most people stop choosing correctly. The social pressure moment. People around you expect a certain lifestyle because of your income. They invite you to expensive dinners. They plan trips that cost what you invest in a month. And declining or finding a cheaper version requires explaining yourself in ways that feel uncomfortable, because saying, "I'm trying to build wealth," sounds either preachy or paranoid, depending on who you're talking to. Most people find a quiet way to manage this. You don't have to explain the whole philosophy. You just have to know why you're saying no. The delayed gratification wall. Around year 3 or 4 of consistent investing, most people hit a wall. The account is growing, but not yet large enough to feel transformative. The sacrifices feel real. The payoff still feels distant. This is the moment the majority of people either abandon the strategy or scale back. And it is the most expensive moment to quit because the compounding that was just starting to accelerate gets interrupted. The people who get through the wall do so the same way. They stop comparing their account to what they gave up and start comparing it to where they would be without it. The car they didn't buy, still a car. The money they invested instead, now substantially larger than the car's value and still growing. Part 5. When the invisible becomes visible. Here is what nobody tells you about choosing wealth over looking rich. Eventually, not always, but eventually, the wealth becomes undeniable even to people who couldn't see it before. Not because you suddenly start spending, but because the options become visible. You leave the job that was making you miserable and nobody is quite sure how. You pay cash for something significant, and people notice the absence of stress around the purchase. You retire earlier than anyone expected. You help someone in your family in a way that could only come from a position of genuine financial security. The wealth announces itself eventually, just on a timeline that required patience and a tolerance for invisibility that most people don't have. And here is the final honest truth about this choice. The cousin in the BMW and you are both signaling something. He is signaling what he wants people to think he has. You are building what you actually have. Same energy, completely different results. 10 years from now, the BMW is worth almost nothing and the payments are done. The index funds are worth something significant and still growing. The math always wins. The math just requires you to be comfortable being invisible while it works. If this video gave language to something you've felt but couldn't quite articulate, hit the subscribe button, give this a thumbs up, and comment below. What is the hardest part of choosing wealth over looking rich for you right now? I want to know, because you are not as alone in this as it feels when nobody is clapping for your index funds.